Casey's Top 40.
Hi, this is Kasem. Well, Chrissie Hynde, one of the most successful female rockers of all time, has returned to the survey. She and her group, The Pretenders, first hit back in 1980 with a big top 10 called Brass in Pocket. And this week, their new song, I'll Stand By You, was our highest debut. Now, can Chrissie slip a brand new top 10 in her pocket? We'll find out as we count down all the biggest hits in the USA on Casey's Top 40.
American Top 40.
This is Casey on AT40 in Hollywood, and now we're up to the first chart single by a woman who left home vowing she wouldn't return until she made it. It was back in 1973 that 20-year-old Chrissie Hynde told her parents that she was leaving her hometown of Akron, Ohio for England, where she intended to become a successful musician, and she wouldn't come home until she made it. Her parents, Melville and Dolores Hynde, tried to change Chrissie's mind, but she was a stubborn girl. And for 7 long years, she lived in London, working at her career. She sang with a lot of bands, both in England and France, and even took a job as a music writer for London's New Musical Express in the hope of meeting working musicians. Finally, after a lot of frustration and bad breaks, Chrissie became part of a new group called The Pretenders, and things began to happen. The Pretenders became one of the most popular club bands in London, which led to a recording contract with Warner Brothers Records, and soon after, a #1 record in England. And so, 7 years after their daughter, Chrissie, left home, Mr. and Mrs. Hynde found themselves sitting in Cleveland's Agora Auditorium. They were there to watch their daughter make good on that promise of hers to come home a star. With her first chart single in America, here's Akron, Ohio's Chrissie Hynde and the Pretenders at number 14 with Brass in Pocket.
Got brass in pocket. Got fiddle. I'm gonna use it.
American Top 40. Top 40.
I'm Kasem. Moving up a notch is the current hit by the Pretenders. The group's lead singer, Chrissie Hynde, gave birth to a baby girl about 2 months ago, but Chrissie waited to name her. Now she's decided on Natalie. Congratulations. At number 5, here's rock and roll singer and mommy, Chrissie Hynde, and her group, The Pretenders, with Back on the Chain Gang.
On American Top 40, I'm Charlie Van Dyke in for Casey Kasem. Now, we're up to the hit song by the pop music critic, who's become a pop music star. Possibly the only critic with a major music paper ever to make it to the charts. She's the American lead singer of the English band The Pretenders, 31-year-old Chrissie Hynde. Now, Chrissie says she got into rock and roll as a young fan of the Beatles and Rolling Stones. During high school in Akron, Ohio, she wanted to form her own band, but didn't have the self-confidence, so she stayed home and wrote songs. Then, after 3 years as an art student at Kent State University, Chrissie pulled up roots and went to England, the home of her favorite music. She got right into the London social swing, and one night at a party, she was expressing her opinions loudly about music she liked and disliked. Well, there was a writer there from the New Musical Express, and he was impressed enough with what Chrissie Hynde had to say to introduce her to an editor on that well-known music paper. She says that the editor told her, "Put a typewriter where your mouth is," and Chrissie's career as a music critic was off and running. She wrote for the New Musical Express for about a year and then became restless. She went to Paris and tried to start her own band. It didn't work. She came back to the USA, back to Cleveland for a little while, and then went back to London. And this time, she was determined to form a band and make it work. She wasn't a teenager anymore. She had the self-confidence now, and the songs. Well, the band Chrissie Hynde formed, with original drummer Martin Chambers, was The Pretenders. And they've succeeded beyond her expectations. Debuting this week with their 3rd big hit on the American chart. Here are The Pretenders, lead vocal by former music critic Chrissie Hynde. At number 37, it's Middle of the Road.
Number 37.
The only original member of this next band is wife, mother of 2, and full-tilt rock and roller Chrissie Hynde. She's from Ohio, and she started the band 8 years ago in London. The Pretenders checking in at number 37 with a song called Don't Get Me Wrong. Chrissie Hynde trying to get the facts straight. Don't Get Me Wrong by The Pretenders, up 3 notches to number 37 this week. we're hearing the 40 biggest hits of the week according to the official nationwide survey of Billboard magazine. This is American Top 40. I'm Casey Kasem, and the countdown continues.
Number 10.
Chrissie Hynde of the Pretenders is crusading against promoting junk food. In fact, she's starting to criticize publicly other artists who help advertise junk foods. Here she is, up 2 notches to number 10 this week. Chrissie Hynde with the Pretenders and Don't Get Me Wrong.
Number 14.
Now, we're up to the British-American band who were once considered to be on the punk rock side, but their lead singer says things are different now. Quote, I'm 35 and I can't keep pretending I have my head in a garbage can. Punk music is 10 years old. I don't think the term punk describes anything on a new album. That's what Chrissie Hynde has to say about the Pretenders sound in 87.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm David Perry for Casey Kasem. Casey's Top 40 originates in Hollywood. Now we're up to the latest hit for the Pretenders, a group led by a woman whose total onstage experience consisted of one performance before she decided to move from America to England to show the British how good she was. She's Chrissie Hynde, and that first performance took place back in 1967 when she was 16. She was in a band called Saturday Sunday Matinee. And after they played a show in her hometown of Akron, Ohio, Chrissie says she knew that rock and roll was what she wanted to do for the rest of her life. But she didn't want to do it with Saturday Sunday Matinee. In fact, she didn't even want to do it in America. She wanted to do it in the same place the Beatles did it, and the Stones, and Eric Clapton, and Jimi Hendrix. Chrissie was convinced that her destiny was waiting for her in London. And so after that one performance, she quit the band. It took her 6 long years to move to London, and when she did, in 1973, she got to work trying to build a career. But times were tough. To make ends meet, she took a series of odd jobs. She sold leather handbags on the street, she worked as an artist model, and she was even a rock critic for a while. It wasn't until 1978, 11 years after she'd quit her first band, that Chrissie Hynde finally got her career off the ground, with a song called Stop Your Sobbing, a song that became a hit in England. And 2 years later, in 1980, she had her first hit in the USA, the top 10 smash Brass in Pocket. This week, her 4th top 10 in the USA moves up a notch to number 9 on Casey's Top 40. Here's Chrissie Hynde and the Pretenders with I'll Stand By You.
Oh, why you look so sad? The tears are in your eyes. Come on and come to me now.
Well, now we're up to an American Top 20 Extra, a smash by the Pretenders, a band whose female lead singer has been called a rock pioneer. She says, quote, that's ridiculous. American-born singer Chrissie Hynde has been a woman who rocked since 1974. It was in 74, during a trip from London to France, Chrissie saw an ad for a singer on the bulletin board of a Parisian cafe. It had been posted by a band called The Frenchies, and Chrissie says she got the job for 2 reasons. First, she was a good singer, and second, she was the only person who answered the ad. After the Frenchies, she moved from band to band, and then in 1978, Chrissie put together a band of her own, the Pretenders. She says, quote, a lot of people have called me a pioneer, but that's ridiculous. I've done nothing groundbreaking. I'm in a typical 4-piece rock band. Other women could have done it, and other women have. Now, with an extra on American Top 20, here's Chrissie and the Pretenders with a smash from 1980, Brass in Pocket.
I'm winking at you, gonna make you notice.
America's Top Hits.
One of the top holiday songs in the USA this year and every year is Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. This version is by a band whose lead singer never complains about negative reviews. Back in 1973, Chrissie Hynde moved from Akron, Ohio to London, England with the hope of finding a career in music. The career she found was as a writer for the music magazine New Musical Express. She became one of the magazine's top critics. Then she decided to make some music herself. She became lead singer for the Pretenders, and though they took their share of critical knocks, Chrissie never complained. She knew she had to take as well as she gave. And one of the things she gave was one of the top holiday songs in the USA this year and every year. Here are the Pretenders with Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
Have yourself a merry little Christmas.
Counting down the hits with Kasem.